I think my pen is over there somewhere. All right, thanks. My apologies for that. My computer literally just decided to crash on me as I moved to the boardroom here. So we're still trying to get it up and running, but should be fairly close. But I have another computer here that I'm working off of. So my thanks to Christy for that. And just Chair Smith, just for your information, Kathy Moore, Director Kathy Moore, is unable to attend today, not feeling well, and Director Dunn is planning on attending, but towards 1:30. So just to give you a little bit of a heads up on those.
All right, thank you. And there I see Director Ross has joined us. That's good. So will we get underway then, Mark? You're comfortable with the facility you have there?
Yes, yes. Let's go forward, and we'll be able to. I'll be able to do it from this station.
All right, thank you. I'd like to call to order then meeting number 8 of the Board of Directors meeting for the Kawartha Conservation Authority, and I'll ask, is there any additions or deletions or changes to the agenda? All right, hearing none, could I have a motion then to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
So Director Letham first and seconded by Director Kiesebrink. Is there anyone opposed to that? Hearing none, I'll declare it carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Hearing none, we have next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for meeting 7. Could I have a motion regarding that, please?
I'll give you a motion.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Director Kiesebrink. Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Is there any business arising from the minutes that will not be covered during the meeting? All right, thank you. Hearing none. There are no deputations, no presentations. We have 4 items on the consent agenda. I'll ask for a motion then to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Nice. Okay, I saw Director Seymour Fagan first. Moved by Director Seymour Fagan, seconded by Director Kiesebrink. Are there polls?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to pull 7.2.
7.2 has been pulled by Councillor Hooper. Are there any others? All right, hearing none, then on 7.1, 7.3, and 7.4, is there anyone opposed to those consent items? Hearing none, I'll declare them passed. And Director Hooper on 7.2, please.
Yes, I'll move it as written, but I just have a question in regards to one of the strategic plans and initiatives, and it was under, I believe, number 8, and it's just at the bottom on page, what page is it on? Anyways, page 17, where it talks about began working with City of Kawartha Lakes to enforce a process for construction of a development conducted without blah, 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 and all that stuff. Are we will that require any legal fees and things like that we're going to have to go through in regards to that particular concern? Through you to, I guess, Mark.
Yep, sure. What I'll do is I'll answer some information, and this is just to confirm it's the enforcement process for a development that was conducted without building or planning approvals.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes,
so So yes, you're right. There will be some potential costs associated with the enforcement of that. We're really at the initial stages of that development. Kind of key to this whole process is that under the this is under the risk management official services that we provide for the city of Kawartha Lakes for drinking water source protection purposes. So we are working closely with the what's called the POC, the Project Oversight Committee, which consists of a number of staff at the city, senior and staff in multiple departments, and so this is one that we're working with them to figure things out. The Director of Public Works, who sits on the committee, has also looked at the city's legal as an option for supporting this. So that is something that we're currently working out, and if not, then there is a process identified in the agreement for this.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Just curious, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Latham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question while we've got it pulled under 4. Permitting approvals. We've got issued a total of 123 permits, probably for Ron. I'm just wondering, how does that compare, Ron, to other months, other years? I mean, put that in perspective for us. Is that really good? Is that a slowdown, or where does that sit? Just for curiosity.
Just through the chair, that's maybe a little bit higher than normal. It tends to be a slightly higher than normal quarter, though. But if you look at it, 125 times 4 is about 500 in a year, and we normally do about 400 permits in a year, or just over 400 is the way it's been lately. So it's maybe a bit more robust than it normally is, and I think that may have partially been due to the fact that it was a little bit quieter in that second quarter. So the third quarter, people were really looking to get approvals because they realized that COVID might be here for a bit more of a longer run, and they thought they were just going to wait it out. Now they know they need a lot of permits.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Is there any further discussion or questions?
If I could, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Just under the Conserve and Restore, congratulations on getting the RBC grant for the urban stewardship to do that permeable pavement pilot. That's really cool. Under the Discover, those data loggers, I'm not sure who to direct the question to, but I was just wondering how they're working. It says it's easier to use and it's a little bit more reliable to tracking the cold water streams, the temperatures. So I was just curious about that technology and how that's going.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think Emma would be the best person. It's her staff that use that equipment, so she'll be able to speak towards it.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. So through the chair, yes, this technology allows staff basically to stand next to the top technology with a mobile device, and then the data is uploaded automatically. So rather than having to do a manual download or upload, it's done through that method. So it's a lot quicker, effectively.
Oh, that's awesome. And just one further question regarding technology under the optimized service. There, as an addition to the Kawartha website, doing the e-solutions and doing the mapping feature for the planning and permitting online applications. I was just wondering if someone could comment on how that's working, because I think that would be a huge customer service win.
And through you, Mr. Chair, I think Ron Warren, our Director of Planning, Development, Engineering, would be the best person. He's the closest to that.
Go ahead, Ron.
Yep. And through the chair, I would have to honestly say I don't know the full answer, but I know that the feedback we've had has been positive. Okay. And usually when it comes to permitting, if it's not going well, we hear about it pretty quickly. So I think it's going about as well as we could expect right now, and it's a real boon at this time to be able to have that. So it's
well, especially if you've got an increase in applications, right?
For sure.
Oh, fantastic. Well, and also congratulations on getting that OMAFRA grant. Or is that still being negotiated? The $99,750 for the Talbot watershed, or is that fully done now?
It's out of my jurisdiction. I would have to say that I don't know.
You, Mr. Chair. Yes, it's going really well.
Awesome.
You know, we haven't finally signed on the dotted line, but we are really close.
Oh, great job. That's amazing. Okay,
Thank you.
All right, thank you. There's welcome to Director Dunn.
Christy, do you want to turn your volume up? It's louder than mine.
Is there any further discussion then regarding 7.2? Hearing none, or is there anyone opposed to the motion? Hearing none, I will declare it passed. Thank you. And next on the agenda is item 8.1, the administrative bylaw update. And if someone could give me a motion, then the recommended resolution is resolved that the amendments to the administrative and meeting procedural bylaw number 1 to further enable electronic participation be approved and adopted for use effective November 1st, 2020. Would someone make that motion, please? Director Dunn, seconded by Vice Chair Latham. And is there discussion? Hearing none. Is there anyone opposed to that motion? Hearing none, I'll declare it carried. Thank you. Next then is 8.2. Here. 8.2, the resolution is whereas the 36 conservation authorities have embarked on a client service and streamlining initiative to improve client service and accountability, increase the speed of approvals, and reduce regulatory burden. And whereas the Conservation Ontario Client Service and Streamlining Initiative Steering Committee has developed guidance documents to further this initiative. And whereas Conservation Ontario have developed a guideline for Conservation Authority pre-consultation planning and permitting applications, which were endorsed by Conservation Ontario Council on September 28, 2020. Resolved that the guideline for Conservation Authority pre-consultation planning and permitting applications developed by Conservation Ontario be endorsed for use in our planning and permitting services. Would someone care to make that motion, please?
I'll give you the motion.
Director Hooper, I have a seconder, please.
Councillor Ross seconds.
Director Ross seconds it. Thank you. Is there discussion on that? Quiet group today. That's fine. I'm not finding fault. All right, that's fine. Is there anyone opposed then to that motion? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Thank you.
And through you, Mr. Chair, if sorry, we have some feedback here. One thing I'll just mention is that this is a best management guide for conservation authorities across all 36 CAs. So we actually are implementing a lot of those pre-consultation guidelines already and have for the last 10 years, but it's nice to have a document that supports some of those initiatives. We've been doing that in our permitting activities for the better part of at least approaching probably 10 years. And I know our municipal partners, the Planning Act was changed, which really facilitated pre-consultations in a large way. So we've been participating with our municipal partners for a good number of years now as well, at least 5 or 7 years.
All right, thank you. That was 8.2. Next is 8.3, the budget. And the recommended resolution is resolved that the 2021 budget be supported by funds from the unspecified reserve for further review at the November Board of Directors meeting, and the staff proceed with the development of the 2021 budget based on the discussion provided. Could I have a motion regarding that, please?
I'll make that.
Vice Chair Latham, I saw to move it, and is there a seconder, please?
I'll second.
Second by Director Kieserbrink. And Discussion, please.
Can I speak to it, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind?
Go ahead.
Thank you. A couple questions, Mark. On page 2 of 2, where you've got the under evaluation for integration into the budget. I kind of agree with you that you know, I'm struggling to say we should just be postponing all these costs and trying to come forward with a 0% budget. I know we're going to use some of the funds from the reserve to offset the costs. I think 75,000, or that's the plan from 2020. So I'm wondering if there's any thought of, and I'll just put this out for discussion, taking some of the one-time costs. So a couple questions. Your one-time cost of 15,000 for the remote work requirements, and the 10,000 one-time cost for the strategic plan development, and applying those to through the reserve, pay for those through the reserve. I'm going to ask if the consultation services one-time 5,000, comprehensive review of compensation 5,000, and the corporate program, if there's any thought on deferring that possibly for a year, just to get a control of our costs. So put the 25,000 on one-time costs through our reserve for the 2021 budget. And then can you tell us what the 115,000 of ongoing costs, what effect roughly from a ballpark that would be on the levy moving forward? Do you have that off the top here?
So I tried to follow that as closely as I could. So we have basically it's right around $16,000 is a percent on our budget, and so that well, I don't trust my math right now, but that certainly would be an increase of a couple of percent at least there. So it is a budget that we've been struggling with. I think Wanda and I have been chatting on the budget. This is a difficult budget that we've been wrestling with to get to the point where it is. We were looking at deferred revenue, but we're also looking at maybe there's another option that we might be able to support the budget, which might be through deferred revenues in the capital project fund. So if the board of directors is willing to entertain that, that might be another way that we can accomplish some of these items. And so that would be money that's put forward for projects. So it'd be a little bit different, but we might be able to get around that way. I know that our reserves are finite as well, and it preside a little bit of a unique solution to the budget as well. But I agree, there's some elements that could be deferred into future years as well.
Well, yeah. So I still don't know percentage-wise. I kind of misunderstood there. Did you say $15,000 was 1%?
Yes.
If that's the case, that's a lot more than a couple of percent on the levy. That's probably 7 or 8% on the levy then for 115. If my math is maybe better than yours at this point, Mark.
I think it probably is.
If you'll take that in the spirit it's intended, but I'm just trying to get a handle on that. Deferred revenues, I'm not quite understanding how you're talking special projects money that's been deferred for projects that weren't done, and how do you take special projects funding, and which is unique to individual municipalities doing those projects, and apply it to an ongoing levy? You'd have to have a bit more information. Yeah. I was assuming that those deferred projects that were deferred, or those special projects that were deferred, then, you know, the money, a big portion of it was being deferred, and municipalities wouldn't be asked for those funds again this year until the work plan caught up with the revenue that's sort of already been budgeted for. So I need more information on that, but I wanted to put that out there to the group for discussion on the funding the one-time costs. I think the strategic plan is important. I think we should go ahead with that. I think the equipment to work remotely is important. I think we've done a good job with technology. We've improved a lot of our processes. I would like to see that continue, and obviously giving everybody the proper tools to do that job, I think is important. So, and then the other, unless somebody tells me otherwise, the other reviews in the corporate where, you know, those possibly could be programs that are put off for put off for another year just till we figure out where we're going with this whole pandemic thing. And then the 115, if we can nail that down with ongoing costs, we could decide where we go. I'm not sure a 7 or 8% levy increase would be very popular. But if we can get that down to a couple points, I don't think, I saw the note from Durham. I don't think Kawartha Lakes would, is expecting a 0% year after year after year. So we just need to sort of somehow find a more palatable level till we get through this. So those are just my thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know this year's has been a little bit difficult, so we are trying to make things match, and we've seen that it is difficult, certainly for the upcoming year, trying to do that. Since we do expect revenues to drop, and of course the wage pressure going up, and our overhead as well has increased with the different COVID protocols that we've had to put in play, and remote work has a cost too. So it is something that we're still working on. So appreciate some of the discussion here to that end.
Right, thank you. Is there any further discussion? The strategic plan estimated at 10,000 if done internally. Do we have the expertise or the experience on staff of doing that internally, or what are the expectations there?
Yeah, so on that particular item, I think the game plan would be to substantially complete a number of the legwork that would be required for the strategic plan internally, and then for a nominal amount be able to hire a consultant to assist in the pulling together of that plan. So they'd be involved obviously at the very beginning point, but instead of the consultant doing a lot of the legwork, we would do that, which is consistent with what we've done in our previous strategic plan, and came in around the same amount.
All right, thank you. Is there any further discussion?
If I could, Mr. Chair.
Certainly, go ahead.
I'm wondering if this might be a good time to our CAO just to share some of the things. When I called earlier today to ask some questions regarding some stuff that's already been passed, you mentioned some of the ideas that you had to finesse the staffing changes, and maybe that would be good for the board to know the work that you're doing in that regard as well, because it has an impact on budget.
Mm-hmm. Further to that, there is I was chatting with our director on a question related to another item on the agenda, the pre-consultation, and we did talk about some of the changes that we're making. So we are streamlining some of our departments, given some of the vacancies, and looking for some opportunities within that. So there is a lot of work that's going on. There's a fairly large collaborative on tree planting and climate change adaptation with the region of Durham. So we're looking at having some support services for a forestry person versus our stewardship coordinator, which we had previously, for example. And then we're also looking at trying to support the both areas of the Stewardship Conservation Lands Department with a one kind of technician position that'd be able to address needs in both departments, common to both, but currently it takes some time for people like conservation areas technicians or some our stewardship staff to handle those, when they could be doing some other things that would be more suited to their skill sets. So we are looking at some changes to that end as well.
All right, thank you. Anything further, Director Kiesemer?
I was wondering if our CAO could comment on the review of the compensation package. That's 5,000. That's a one-time review. Could you clarify what that is? A little bit more about that, perhaps?
Yeah, I'll stir it out, and then I'll defer to Wanda, who's much closer to it. But what we have is we have our band levels that we work within for staff of merit increases, and it's looking at refining that that process so that there are benchmarks for those levels. So that's the intent behind that. Wanda, if you want to add, that'd be great.
Sure, certainly. So we would do a lot of the legwork in order to determine if our wages are competitive. We would go out and we would bring in the materials compared to other conservation authorities or municipalities, and then use the consultant to do the synopsis on whether we meet the market and how far we might be off in points, as well as the graduation between for merit increases. What are the markers, so that there's a clear defense and it's clearly information that the staff would understand how they achieve a merit increase, so that we remove any subjectivity to that, as well as, there's probably some analysis with regard to, equal pay equals to equal work. So there's legislation in that regard as well that we need to ensure that we meet. So those positions between male and female need to be documented, that they're being paid equally. And it has nothing to do with gender.
So if I could further, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So with respect to the review, the compensation review, and further to our vice chair's comments about potentially deferring some of these costs to the next year in order to minimize the impact with the pandemic and everything. Is that something that could be deferred, or is there time sensitive elements to that make it critical to be a part of the current budget process?
Ms. Stephen, I guess we'll let you handle that one.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Legislatively, equal pay for equal work is something that we would have to have documentation of, and it would be advantageous to have that by 2021. The remainder of the work could set the bar for establishing the 2022 budget. So if we don't know where we're going, we're not going to achieve that. So, there's often comparisons to the GTA because we're so close and because it's within commuting distance. And are we competitive with those salaries? And what does our whole package deliver to our staff compared to what they just see as an envelope of pay? So I think that it's more of this amount of money would get us set up to implement, and then the following years you would implement in stages if there was compensation changes to be made.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any further discussion on that? Ms. Stevens, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
Mr. Chair, I have a question. Sorry,
Oh, great.
I don't have a hands up thing, so I
All
apologize for that.
Go ahead.
Through you to Ms. Stevens. And just going on to what Ms. Kisbring said, so the first bullet point and the second last one. So I did hear the C word that everyone loves to hear, the consultant word. So what is that? The 40,000 plus the 5,000? Where is the consultant's fee in there? So is that the 40,000? I'm just trying to get a handle on that part of it.
No, that would be for adjustments for salaries that currently exist. So that's the complete package, that we're over 2.2 million in salaries. So that would be a cost of living adjustment within that, as well as any scheduled merit increases. The consultant, we would look at providing all the as much work as we possibly could, so that the consultant would review that. Usually those packages are those compensation package reviews are expensive. So we would gather all the information, provide a synopsis, and provide for review.
And he pulls it all together, correct?
Yes, exactly. That's what we're trying to accomplish.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else have anything to add? All right. Hearing none, the motion was made, and is there anyone opposed to that? Hearing no opposition, I'll declare it passed. And is there any new business?
I have something real quick, if I can, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Just a question for Mark. We have a counselor who's inquiring, and I think you know, Councillor Yeo, about the possibility of Lake Dalrymple being part of a lake management plan. I know we've completed our lake management plans as part of that initial package. I know we're implementing those now, so I'm just wondering if you could get back to me on the possibility of what that would look like, projected cost, and when you would have the capability to do a one-off lake management plan. I don't think it's time sensitive, so if you said, you know, a year or two down the road, that would probably be a really good answer, hint, hint. But I will defer it to you, and if you can get back to me, then I will pass it on for our budget deliberations, if necessary, to back to council. So I just wanted to ask that. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly through you, Mr. Chair, I can certainly do that. It might actually help this year's budget for us, just to be kind of frank and forthright about it. But yes, certainly I've been in contact with the councillor, and so we've been working to develop a project plan to help support that. And if we get support, then we're happy to do it. I think we could potentially do it this year. It'd be a 4-year plan like the other lake management plans, a little higher in the first year, and then dropping down as we go from there. So, but yeah, I think it would be possible. And to give you a kind of ballpark figure, it'd be roughly 90,000 we figure in the year one, and then following out from there, it would be right around 70,000 per year. So that's what we figure it would take for that multi-year project to get established and going.
So did you say a 4-year project? Sorry.
Yes, yes, through you, Mr. Chair, 4-year project. Okay,
so regarding workability and your capacity to do the work, whether it's this year or next year, you can fit it into a schedule. That's not a concern at this point.
Yes, yep, and we'll work it in if you agree into our current budget and see how everything shakes out. We hadn't anticipated it for 2021, but believe we could get that going for this year.
Okay, I will pass it on to council and let you know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other new business? Right, hearing none, is there anyone like to make any reports or updates? Any members?
I just had a question, Mr. Chair.
Certainly.
Did we ever finalize on having how we were going to handle having someone from the First Nations represented on the board? Was that something that we were waiting on a conservation authority sort of recommendation for us, or I just don't recall how we ended up resolving that.
I can answer that, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you.
So you're right, Director Kiesebrink. That is one item that has been outstanding since the beginning of this year, and I did provide some updates to that in subsequent board meetings. And initially, it was the First Nations weren't able to meet with us due to some personal circumstances, and since then, I think part of it also relates back to a community liaison. So they did not have a community liaison individual for some time. The individual ended up being the chief of Alderville First Nations, which is great. And they have hired a person. I'm actually meeting with that individual tomorrow on this topic. So we'll be discussing some options around that and kind of see what the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation we're looking at. In the meantime, during the provincial consultations, in order to further that directive, we've been raising that at the provincial consultation forums around CAs and business improvements, and it was raised by other conservation authorities or other participants in the consultation process as well. And I've been looking at all the other CAs. No one else has a First Nation representative on their board. The CA Act is limiting in that nature. So that is where that file stands at this point.
Would it be appropriate for us to make a motion that the CA Act has consideration or modification in it for this? Because I can see this being something quite relevant in most communities to have representation from a CA, or are we getting into, I would maybe defer to others on the board who are more seasoned and more longstanding than myself. Is there potentially any problems in that? I know, like on the municipal level, we can make a motion and then it gets passed on to provincial powers that be to say, hey, would you consider looking at, cannabis directives, and so I'm just wondering if there's something that we can do in a more formal way, or if we should do something more formally.
I just wonder if we should, I don't disagree, Director Giesbring, but I just wonder if we should wait until Mr. Mahowski meets with the delegation he's going to meet with tomorrow, Mark, you said?
Yes, tomorrow.
And then he can report back on our November meeting?
And to that point, I mean, maybe we want to interact with someone in our, and have that experience first to then inform a more formal recommendation that we would make later too. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I guess that's my recommendation is that Mark could meet with him tomorrow, and then we'll go from there, see what he learns, and if he has recommendations to the board. Would that be okay with you, Mark, as well?
Yes. Yeah, that sounds perfect.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
All right. Is there any other questions or reports? Okay, hearing none. Is there a need for a closed session? I guess not. This is another short meeting, and I'm not complaining. I'll ask then for a motion to adjourn. Director Dunn, the seconder?
I'll second it.
Director Huber, is there anyone opposed to that? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Good afternoon.